All right, what's up guys? We're back here at Onslow Bay. We're here today to go break down fuel tank installation, and we're also gonna go check them out, breaking down the liner. So yeah, let's go get after it.
Basically on all parts except the hulls, we have, when we're gonna infuse them, we have 1 day of open layup. And that involves the gel and the skin.
Okay.
And it's a vinyl ester skin coat. And that's all hand laid. After that, all the material's packed in dry, then we bag it, and then we infuse it.
So for those listening, explain what a cap is.
So our boats are 3-piece. So you have the hull, you have the liner, which is the floor where you stand, and then you have the cap, which is where your rod holders go.
Okay. So that's what we're looking at right here.
That's right. It's all 1.5 ounce mat. And it's all hand laid. We don't use a chopper gun on this. The only thing that we use a chopper gun on is just when we make our molds on the first couple layers. Then after that, it's all hand laid. But on any production parts we have, we use no chopper gun.
Okay.
Because we know when we put this down, we know exactly how thick it is and exactly how much glass is there. And it comes in a kit. And so you can see this, the white gel coat, so there's your color.
Yep.
So that gets sprayed on first. You have a releasing agent on the mold. You spray the gel coat on. And then you got the 1.5 ounce mat that goes on.
Interesting. So once this is all done, they'll sand it down again, and then what's the next step after that?
So tomorrow they'll come back, they'll check it for air. They'll grind out any air that may be in it. So they check it for air while they're doing it. See how they have the lights on their on their hats?
Basically that's what they're doing.
So they're checking for air. But then tomorrow they'll come back and they'll check for air again, because the last thing you want...
Just have to go back and do it again.
Well, if the air doesn't get called, then what's going to happen is later on down the road, when the boat's out in the weather and it gets hot, it gets cold, it rains, you go through the seasons, then that little air bubble back behind it, the gel coat eventually break out.
Yeah.
And then it's purely cosmetic, but it's a pain.
Yeah.
It's a pain for me, it's a pain for the customer.
Yeah.
So
gotcha.
we try to catch everything we can before it leaves the shop. So even though when you're infusing, you still have to do the skin coat. That's still hand laid.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah. Now after this, so once they check that tomorrow, they'll start packing this. We call packing, that's for the infusion. So they'll start packing this with the material. So they'll put down, I believe it's 1 layer of 24, then they'll come down, they'll put the, well, they got to put some print blocker to put on certain areas, and they'll put a layer of 24, then they put the core down, they put another layer of 24, and then also where there's not any core, they put actually some more glass. And then any of our stress areas that we might have, like around the top, around the flange, we put extra glass up there as well.
Like by the rod holders too and all that, or?
Well, no, the rod holders are mostly core. Wherever there's core, it's just you want to balance your laminate. So you want as much on the front as you do on the back, is the idea, is a balanced laminate. But where the core is going to stop right here, we would put extra glass right here.
Okay.
You know, to just stiffen that up.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So Brad, like this is a pretty important spot of the process. You know, tell us about your fuel tanks.
Well, it's fuel tanks, but it's also the rest of the foam in the boat. I think you and I have discussed before that when I was first got started building boats, and the reason I build boats the way I do is because I started out fishing. Yeah. Fishing on different boats, saw what I liked, saw what I didn't like, talked to a bunch of my friends, charter guys, and we came up with what we thought was the ultimate boat. But I decided when I first started, because I'd fish in some cold weather, if I'm out there or if any of my customers are out there, if something were to happen, I want them to have something that they can get on until someone can get to them and save them. Yeah. It's not necessarily always, I mean, we build everything just as good as we can build it. And I think our construction methods are some of the best out there. But you never know what's going to happen. Someone could get themselves in trouble crossing the shoals in Moorhead. Somebody could hit a submerged shipping container. Yep. There's no telling what could happen.
Hurricane debris all the time.
Right. So my goal was to have, even though over 20 feet the Coast Guard does not require it, my goal was to have a platform where if the worst possible scenario happened, you still have something that you can get on so you don't die from hypothermia in the water. Yeah, and we're 60 miles off here. We're not, 4 or 5 like they are. 60 plus, that's right. So there's a lot of bad things that can happen. So when I said I don't want to lay in bed in October, November, December, January, February, I don't want to lay in bed worrying on a nice day when these guys go out, if something were to happen, worst case, they don't have something they can hang on to, and they won't survive. Now you said earlier, I think, that what is the size boat, like anything above 22, they legally don't necessarily need to do what he's doing right now? So anything above 20 feet, you do not have to foam fill it, it does not have to float. Okay. There's a lot of boats out there that if something happens, they will go to the bottom. It's an expense, it's a pain, but it makes me sleep at night.
Yeah.
And it has some other benefits too. I mean, the foam is very strong. We use a 2-pound foam on all our open areas. It's not the bilge or a fish box. So all those, like the open area you see up there rising right now, that's all those are foam filled. Now, today is the first day of it, so what's gonna happen is he's gonna foam fill it. He comes back tomorrow, he cuts it off, and then we have to use a specific resin in order to cover that up. We cover the foam up with fiberglass. Now, even though you cover the foam up with fiberglass, it can still get pinholes in it. So we cover it up with a layer of 1.5 ounce mat. It can still get pinholes. What we started doing is we come back with gel coat and we waterproof it. So to cover any kind of pinholes maybe in there so we can get absolutely no water intrusion into that foam.
That's awesome, because I mean, your goal is to basically have this where you don't ever have to go digging back into that again and pull that tank out.
That's right. Well, they say it's closed cell foam, but it'll hold water. It'll hold a certain amount of water. So we do that for our open areas. We cover up fiberglass. We also do it, like you said, for our tank. Now we use a denser foam up underneath our tank because when you have a full tank and you have all that weight pushing down, we want a denser foam underneath it so that it doesn't get compressed over time.
Yep.
So
makes sense.
And then we use a 2-pound foam on the sides. Now, same as the open areas, we cut that foam off, we sand it all flat, and Matt's an artist with this stuff. I've never seen anybody do that good of a job. And then we fiberglass it over, and then we waterproof it with gel coat.
Okay. Now, knowing that you fiberglass over, that's pretty cool. I don't know if that's common or not, but.
I'm not sure who does it or who doesn't do it.
Yeah.
But the fact that a lot of manufacturers, they've had tank problems. So what we do, we get a tank, it's made by Best Fab. It has what's called a coal tar coating on it. And I've seen other boats. I've seen them plain aluminum tank with no coating on them. I've seen them dropped in. And even if they are foamed, they foam it, they cut the foam off, and they don't put any kind of waterproofing. Well, if you get any kind of salt water or any kind of water down in between the foam and the tank, what happens is that water, it starts to eat through that tank.
It's just condensation between that, right?
Well, it's kind of, I mean, water's going to find a way.
Yeah.
It's always going to find a way. It's a boat. I mean, there's spray everywhere, so it's going to find a way.
Yeah.
And that water will get in between that foam and that tank, and it will eat a hole in it. So that's why we fiberglass it over. That's why we gel coat it over. And then on top of that, we coat our tank. So even if for some reason, after all our efforts, water did get in there, it would have to eat through that coating on the outside of the tank to get to the bare aluminum.
Yeah.
And like I said, we've never had to replace a tank.
That's awesome. That's a boat owner's biggest nightmare, is having to pull that thing out. All right, Brad, thanks for breaking this down with the fuel tank. So what would be next here?
So after this, he's going to come back tomorrow. He's going to be cutting the foam down, sanding it level, and we'll be fiberglassing it, and they'll be prepping the bilge. And after that, sometime next week, this boat will go up front to rigging.
Cool.
And it'll be waiting on the cap and the liner, which are, the cap's going to start being infused. Cap and liner should get infused this week.
Cool. Yeah, after this, it goes pretty quick. So yeah, stay tuned, and when we get back here, we'll break it all down again. So hey, thanks, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you.